I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today we're going to be pruning a Fragrant Sumac, Rhus aromatica. The specific variety is Gro-Low, which is probably the most common one you'll find in the nurseries. It is native to most of the eastern United States, and it is largely grown as a ground cover. This does not get very tall. You can see, we might, if I pull this up a little bit, we might get to about 3 feet in height, but that's about as tall as it gets. Normally it's 1 to 3 feet. And you probably need to prune it twice a year. This is dormant pruning, and that's nice because there's no leaves and you can see the entire structure. And what we're due during dormant pruning is take off the 4 Ds, dead, diseased, damaged, and dysfunctional. And then we're doing the structural pruning. So if it's starting to get a little thick, because it does tend to sucker, you're going to control the spread of it, the width of it, during dormant pruning. If you're concerned about its overall shape, you'll do that later in the season after it has leafed out and flowered. So this is dormant pruning. We're going to go after the 4 Ds, and we're going to manage the spread of this shrub. Let me get rid of my clipboard and we'll get started. Since this is a very short shrub, I'm going to prune this sitting down, and right here in the center is where I'm going to start. So I just touched this and it broke. That is, and you heard it snap, that's clearly dead. And there's another little piece here next to it that's dead. So again, we're going to start with the 4 Ds, and I'll clean this up in a moment where it broke off, but right behind that, we clearly have damage. We've got a stem that came up and branched, but it split right below that. So I'm going to take this off down below, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Now, because there's another stem right next to it, makes it cutting a little harder, and when I cut it, I got it right at the break. This used to be like this, and it split probably under the weight of all the leaves, all the foliage, or maybe during a snowstorm, who knows. The split looks a little aged, so I don't think it happened just this past winter. So that comes out because it's in the 4 Ds. And now that that's out, I can clean up where that first piece broke off. It's not a big cut, but just a little. Coming over here, this goes crunch. You can hear that. So I need to get rid of that, and we'll see how much that I can get with my fingers before I come in and try to get my loppers in there. Well, I'm going to have to clean up some other stuff before I can get in there and clean up where that broke off. One of the other things about the Gro-Low Sumac is that you can do this routine pruning like I'm doing today every year, but what you'll find is about every 3 to 4 years you'll want to do a renovation pruning where you just come in and cut everything back to about 6 inches. I don't think this is ready for that, but maybe in another year or so. So back here on the back I found another piece of dead. And one of the challenges, because everything is growing across the ground, is it is kind of hard to get in there and make cuts. That's my biggest challenge today. Now the other thing that this does, because it likes to spread, it goes wide and it will sucker, is that as these stems come out across the ground, they have a tendency to root. So you can do one of two things. You can cut it off if it's growing out where you don't want it to, or come back and sever it between where those roots have taken hold and the main crown of the plant, and then go transplant it somewhere else. Just get a good set of roots on the thing where the sucker rooted, or where the branch rooted. The other thing I've got going on here is this one comes up and crosses on that one. So I'm inclined to take this off. This is coming off of a branch that has 3 on it, and I'm going to take 1. That one's a pretty major one. This one's a smaller one, but it's going in a better direction. And this one wants to grow out over top and rub an adjacent one. So we'll just take that out, and it probably won't be missed, because we can always pull this one around and fill in a little bit, and then that gives us a little room. That's the other thing you can do with all these long branches, is if your plant starts to look a little thin, pull one of these out and just take a landscape staple and hold it in place until it decides that that's where it's really going to cooperate and grow for you. Now, here's a little tiny one that's growing up and under, so I'll take that out. Here's another little tiny one that's growing up and over. So you're not going to make a lot of cuts unless you're doing that every 3 or 4 year renovation pruning. You're really focused on the 4 Ds, dead, disease, damaged, dysfunctional, and then looking at, do you actually need to thin it out, or where this wants to grow, you know, is it going to start to hit you when you mow lawn? And if you're okay with where it is, leave it where it is. And we got rubbing going there. So I'll let the one come over the top. I'll take that one out. So we got this, we have this. Oh, that's something else. That's not part of the Sumac. Some other little volunteer. These two could be spread just a little bit. And then those two aren't, the main stems aren't rubbing, but all I need to do is pull those upright branches out a little bit and maybe prune off one of those. I'll take one of these. Now we have no rubbing going on. We'll see if they start to rub as they grow. This side looks good, this back side looks good. And the homeowner really wants this to grow out wider and fill in a space between 2 hollies. So I think, oh, here's the dead thing I was trying to clean up. Too big to get the loppers in there, and yeah, okay. Hand pruners do the job. So not a lot of really big cuts. And as I say, I'm not going to take any height off it at this time. The dormant pruning is really managing the spread, the width, and if you want to shape it and reduce the height, you would come back and do that after it has leafed out and flowered. And this is like any other pruning job. I may say I'm done, and then I look down and I see, well, this thing wants to curl around, and here's one that wants to curl around and grow back into the center. So now I think I'm done. But a Gro-Low Sumac, really common. It is a low growing, it is aromatic, which is where it gets its name. It is a native, and it is a relatively low maintenance plant. And I can get fussy here, but I think we're good. This is a multi-stem shrub, so it's not a cane shrub that has some magic number of keep this number of canes. It's a multi-stem shrub. They all happen to be low-growing stems, and I think I may need to clean that cut up just a little bit. There we go, that's better. Don't leave stubs. And that's it. I mean, that is the low-grow Sumac. Hope you learned something today, and we thank you for joining us.